Well, dear participants, thank you very much for joining this webinar today on investment promotion agencies, the global pulse on unveiling insights and trends since 2005, which is a World Bank and WAIPA collaboration. This webinar is part of the long year collaboration between WAIPA and the World Bank, in which we have already done a survey in the past, and we have now recently done a survey now, which we would like to show you some results of it, and maybe some housekeeping rules and the agenda. We have reserved a Q&A section at the very end of the webinar. If you would like to post questions, please post them in the chat box. It would also be ideal if you write your name as well as the organization or the IPA you work for, and then we can address the question then accordingly. Perhaps also if you would like to address also to whom you would like to address the question, that would help us as well. Other than that, we have foreseen for the next hour, after a number of opening remarks and introductory remarks, one section where the survey findings will be presented. And then we are very fortunate to have three keynote speakers with us from the Namibia Investment Promotion Development Board, as well as from Invest India and Invest Turkey. And they will speak about some certain aspects also in relation to the key findings of the report. And then we are fortunate to have closing remarks from the World Bank, and then the webinar comes to an end. But without much further ado, I would like to introduce our first speaker with his opening remarks. I would like to introduce Mr. Ismail Ershahin, who is the Executive Director and CEO of WAIPA. And please, Ismail, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Andreas. I'm not going to keep it too long. I just wanted to welcome you all to this session. Actually, this survey has been a very important survey for us, and we've been working on it a lot of time together with World Bank, and we are really happy to work with World Bank. As you know, WAIPA's role is somehow, as I'm always saying, is to distill the know-how from international organizations and to create something useful for our member investment promotion agencies. And I think this one is a great example of that one. I should, of course, first of all, thank to Armando and his team and Ivan as well for putting so much effort for preparation of this survey. And for more than a year, we've conducted a survey among 110 IPAs. Armando and Eduardo are going to give a lot of more information about that, and they are going to share the insights and some key insights about that with you. And in the future, we also plan to provide you with the report as well soon. Another important and, in my opinion, interesting part of it, we are also comparing the current state of investment promotion agencies with the previous surveys that was conducted in 2005 by Geographic. So this is going to give us the opportunity to compare, let's say, the situation of investment promotion agencies with the past and the current. So this is something also very much interesting for me. And this would also give us the chance to see what was the evaluation path was for the investment promotion agencies. This is something that excites us as well. And this will also give us to make an estimation for the future as well, maybe to what extent IPAs will be able to proceed further. In any case, there were some aspects that we came across. We thought that the autonomy, let's say, sectoral alignment and attachments are coming up as important aspects of this study. Therefore, we will also listen from the investment promotion agencies, from Turkish investment promotion agency, from India and Namibia, whether this was really the case, whether these aspects were really in the practice were useful. And I think this is going to be a very interesting part of our sessions as well. What we do at WAIPA, we put the international organizations from our consultative committee, our members together to understand, to experience, share, and providing you with some insights from the ground. And we are also adding, let's say, the companies as well into that more and more. During the last conference in India, during the World Investment Conference, 75% of the participants were investors. So we try to understand what contribution do we make to the real life of investors, actually, real investors. We do hope in coming years, the World Investment Conference is going to be a platform where we just don't share these kind of surveys and studies, but there could be also the chance and opportunity to create real deals for IPAs. We want that to become a platform where IPAs meet with real investors. I mean, all these studies, all these surveys are for our purpose, to make sure that the IPAs are provided with a more important role. They are provided with better budgets, they are provided with better sources, and they can play their role more efficiently to make life easier for investors. Therefore, I'm not going to keep it very long. I will hand over to Andreas, and I'm very much looking forward to the remaining part of this session. Thank you very much again for joining, and over to you, Andreas.
Yes, thank you very much, Ismail. I'd like now to give the word to another key person in the collaboration between our organizations, maybe Armando, if you would give some introductory remarks on the collaboration as well as on the survey itself, and then we'll have following that we'll have then Armando as well as Eduardo Sandoval from the World Bank, who will go through the key findings of the survey. Please, Armando, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, Ismail and participants, for attending this session. While Eduardo loads a presentation, let me say a few words here about the collaboration with WAIPA. It's been already 7 years, since 2017, when we started this discussion about how to add value to the work of IPAs and then provide better services to investors, which is what we're here for. And so the mindset at the time was that we didn't have good data that was showing empirical evidence so that IPAs could use this data to then improve their performance. So we decided to create some time series dating back all the way to 2005, when Beata Jaworczyk was working for the World Bank Group and created a panel. And since then we started to have several iterations of these surveys between WAIPA and World Bank, inviting all the national IPAs of the world. And this was also to improve the quality of this data so that we can extrapolate and start to extract robust conclusions about what was going on in this field. The same thing was about income levels, the regions of the world, and then produce these research papers, which we started to publish in 2020 to benefit the investment profession, the investment promotion profession at large. So that was the intended goal. And in this case, what we are doing is not only revealing what we call a cross-section analysis of the data, which is what IPAs responded last time, but we started to compare with previous engagements, and that all the way to 2005, as I mentioned. The other thing we did differently this year is that we took a more serious deep dive into income levels and differences by income levels of the countries in which the IPAs operate, because we started to see that there were some differences, but we couldn't really come up and say this was a robust analysis. But with the response rates that we obtained, thank you to you, we now can show some of these things. Now, let me say in the next slide, we're going to be reminding you about the framework. Some of you have heard of the World Bank Group for this analysis. Eduardo, the next one. Exactly. So that's the pillar, the 3 strong pillars for impactful investment promotion. And that's the famous temple that you have seen in some of the presentations in the past. So it does showcase those 3 pillars by strategies, structures, which includes institutions and the coordination with other entities in the government and private sector. And last but not least, services. So those 3 pillars, if done correctly, they tend to result in higher investor satisfaction and confidence, which by default then provides for investment results and development impact. So with that, let me just pass it to Eduardo so that he can cover the methodology. Over to you, Eduardo.
Thank you, Armando, and thank you, Andreas, Ismail, and all the people in presenting and also joining the webinar. It has been a great opportunity and for me to join this project, and I can see strong efforts to make this version of the survey very robust and successful, and we can see that in the numbers. And I would like to highlight these efforts because from the 213 active IPAs that were contacted, we had a response rate of over 54%. So from July until more than 6 months of follow-up, we had 113 IPAs responding to the survey. And this is a record number. And that is important to highlight because having these numbers allows us to have robust analysis and understandings from what is being the trends and the context of the IPAs. But this is not only a number as a total, it also is very well represented across regions and incomes. So when we look at the response rate by regions as defined by the World Bank, we see that over 5 of these 7 regions have rates of response of over 50%, which is a great number and allows us to have a robust world representation. And only two of these regions have a lower rate of 33%, but it's still a good, very good response rate. And when we go into income group classifications, we see that this is even more balanced, with high income and low income having over 40% response rate, and middle income economies reaching a 60% response rate. So this allows us to have very robust numbers and understanding of the landscape that IPAs agencies are facing currently. But also, as mentioned, we did the exercise to perform a panel analysis, and for that, we grouped the 2005, 2019, and 2022 versions of the survey to see how many of these agencies have answered throughout time, and we find that 89 agencies have responded more than once in survey. From them, 37 answered since 2005, which will allow us to have the longest trend for the analysis, and 52 for 2019 and 22 to also help us understand the analysis. It's been very important that agencies keep answering the survey because this allows us to have better understanding of what are the main factors, trends, and which policies can be more effective in the case of IPA. So now we go into the different pillars. We will start with the pillar 1, which is a strategy. And from here, we can see that our main or our first result is very clear, that IPAs in high-income economy have a more strategic focus. How did we measure that? By two aspects in this case. The first one is by understanding the number of mandates and the number of priority sectors. And we see that IPAs in high-income economies tend to have a more focused number of mandates, with 5 on average, whereas developing economies have 8. In the case of priority sectors, we see that the average is 8 in high-income economies, 11 in developing. In the case of developing, this is very relevant because resources have to be also distributed across these mandates and these sectors to be effective. And we can see that in the case of high income, they tend to have larger resources and to focus them more in less mandates and sectors to provide more effective results. Now, there's also something really important to ask. Are agencies prepared to changes? And we see that there's a world with high turmoil. We had COVID-19, we've had subsequent crises and shocks affecting the markets. And the question is, are agencies capable to adapt their strategies to these changes? So in this case, we asked for adaptation to COVID-19, and we found that 4 out of 5 agencies responded to have revised their strategy to adapt to the new context of this shock. The response rate is really good across developing and high income, but it still is higher in high income economies with 86% almost. 9 out of 10 of the agencies responding that they have adapted. But what are these adaptations mean? So then we went and asked what was the change in the revised strategies of the agencies that responded that they have adapted. And we found that in this case, the main response was embracing digital transportation. 37% of the agencies indicated not only embracing, but putting into their revised strategy to be a key point in this for their revised strategy. Also, we heard sector prioritizations, retentions, and so forth. So this is a key point because we see a lot of turmoil and the capacity of adaptation is key, and digitalization seems to be a key tool for that. Also, we wanted to understand what are the main challenges that IPAs face. IPAs are a great focal point to understand the challenges that investors have because they are the face to the investors. They can see the challenges that that in practice firms have when going into the market and also for attracting FDI. So we asked for the challenge, and given the turmoils and the shocks in the market, it's not surprised to see that the economic environment is the #1 challenge mentioned by the IPAs, in particular for developing APAs in developing economies. But then the responses turn into a very clear pattern. Investment climate-related challenges are the most prevalent. And the first one, it is procedures and bureaucracy in the countries, with over half of the agencies in high-income economies reporting this to be one of their main challenges, and over 60% in the case of developing economies. Then we also saw that coordination is a challenge. And in this case, although it is almost 1 out of 4 agencies in high-income economies, over 40% of agencies in developing economies respond that this is a challenge for them. So there is a space here to see and face this challenge of coordination. Human capacity is also mentioned in both economies as a main challenge. And then we see investment incentives with over 1 out of 4 agencies in high income and developing economies responding this to be a challenge. This is, we can understand this is a very key tool for many agencies, but the literature as well tells us that FDI attraction not always is related. There are very mixed results on the effectiveness of this. And also there's the coming global minimum tax, which also puts some challenges on the implementation of incentives, and agencies need to also adapt to that. And then we have FDI restriction. This was a very startling result given the difference we find in response rates in high income and developing economies, where almost virtually none or 6% of agencies in high income economies indicated this to be a big challenge. Over 1 out of 4, over almost 26% of the agencies in developing economies indicated this to be a big challenge. So there is a space also here to focus, and in particular in developing economies. Also, we wanted to understand what are the sectors prioritized, and we see that agencies tend to prioritize manufacturing. That is across the board, high income or developing economies. Below, we present the top 10 subsectors that were prioritized, and as you can see, many of them are in the manufacturing sector. But also 2 points that are relevant to highlight. Developing economies prioritize agriculture at a much higher rate, almost all of them, 88% of the agencies indicated to be prioritizing agriculture, but a much lower rate was observing high-income economies. And also it is the case that high-income IPAs in high-income economies tend to prioritize more service-oriented and knowledge-intense sectors. And at a market prioritization, we see that the top 3 markets are the United States, with 52% of IPAs targeting this market either as the top 1, top 2, or top 3 priority. Second comes China, and then Germany. But there is also something very interesting. We see that the number 5th is the United Arab Emirates. It's a newcomer, and it reminds us that agencies have a larger pool of markets where they can pull FDI. So this is a very interesting result, and it reminds us that markets are open and looking to do investment as well. Now I would like to give the time to Armando to continue the presentation with structures. Thank you.
Very much, Eduardo. Now we're going to move into the second pillar, it's about structures, and that means institutions like the IPA, but also the other entities within the government, also in private sector, that work with the agencies to attract investors. So what we have found out in the next slide is the following: is that semi-autonomy is dominating the world. If you move on to the next slide, Eduardo. Right, please. Thank you. So you could see there that both for income or high income in developing economies, you have semi-autonomy as the key variable here. But combined, both semi-autonomy and autonomy make up the 60% of all IPAs in the world. So if you move on to the next, you will see what I'm highlighting here. That would be both autonomy and semi-autonomy. Now, interesting, however, is the difference by income level. So in the next highlights, you would see that developing economy IPAs tend to prefer autonomy more than the high income economies. And the other important thing is the attachment to the highest level possible. And for instance, the office of the president or of the prime minister. And that is interesting. And we have some suspicion about that in terms of the challenges that we heard, especially for the developing world, is the coordination between entities and the fact that you have an investment climate that is more difficult in the developing economies. Thus, the agency has a bigger role to play in terms of bringing together all the actors. And hopefully, if you are higher up, you will be able to mobilize those actors. But we haven't proven that, and that's why we wanted to hear from some of the speakers next. Next slide, please. All right, so then you have this issue of the budgets. And since 2005, let me tell you a little bit of stories. From 2005 onwards, we have seen how budgets in real terms have been increasing over time. But with the pandemic, we also a decline, or most of us saw a decline. And you can see here in the median, if you put in the highlight here, you would see how it went from about $4 million median budget for promotion to half of that. And that was a big drop. Of course, you are not traveling, you're not making investment webinars, or investment seminars in person. So you can save a lot of money there, but you can see the big drop there in 2022 when we had the last survey. Now, if you move on to the next, we also asked agencies, and you can see how 56% of reporting IPAs indicated a decrease in their budget. Now, interestingly, you see 40% reporting a budget increase. So that's also very interesting. Perhaps in this time, the governments thought that there was an important thing to do is to beef up the agency's resources. Next, please. Okay, now in terms of staffing, of course, we also saw how staff had been increasing over time since 2005, which was a good thing. and especially for promotion, because you see in most of these agencies, you have a bigger number of staff, as you can see on the very left, that are, say, 51 full-time equivalent staff as the medium. Let's look at the medium, which is a better measure, I think. But when you ask about professional staff, you got about 35. And then if you ask about promotion-focused staff, you only have 1/3. So that's an interesting finding, which is the agencies are doing a lot more than just promotion, or at least the resources are dedicated to other things. And you can see how you got 9 full-time equivalent professional staff working on promotion in the median. Now, if you see also an interesting finding, and I'm glad to report, and the next thing is how the gender balance has been behaving over time. And in my very old times, this was mostly a man's job. You would be traveling and meeting with investors and having power lunches and power dinners and convincing them about coming to your country or your location. But nowadays, you see a lot more women participation at all levels of the agency. So you can see in terms of not only the technical staff, but also management of promotion, you got women at 50%. And that is actually a great achievement. Congratulations to all the agencies there. Next. Last but not least in services. So this is the last pillar, and we're about time to show this. You may remember the World Bank introduced a framework called the Comprehensive Investor Services Framework that would help IPAs provide better services to investors and try to go deeper into what would be typically facilitation. So facilitation was a meaningless word at some point in time because everybody was saying, I'm facilitating investment, but what does it mean? Oh, yes, I'm rubber stamping some of the documents that investors need to pass with the government. And then investors said, well, but that's not a service to me. And then we started the discussion, so what is a service to the investors? This brought some perspective. And you can see here in the next highlight that we identify 4 stages of an investment life cycle for an investment project that go from the beginning of exploration and then on into entry and establishment and other things. And then from the perspective of the country or the location, you got the attraction stage, you got an entry and establishment, then you are into retention mode. We all know about that since COVID, and then hopefully some expansion. And last but not least, maybe also happening in parallel, is linkages and spillovers to the economy so that you can link with domestic suppliers and stuff. Now, we also have 4 categories in the rows, and those are from marketing, information assistance, and advocacy. And hopefully this would be bringing some granularity to what agencies should be working about to provide these services. So you saw before COVID, you had most agencies working at attraction, so that's good, and then providing some information at entry and establishment. So these percentages here of about 70% are showing how many agencies say they're providing a service related to marketing at attraction or information at entry and establishment. Just to give you a sense, this was pre-COVID. Now, move on to the next thing. It's after COVID, we asked them, okay, so what is the situation? And we were glad to see that most of the agencies now were covering more thoroughly the investment life cycle and throughout different services. And we were extremely happy when we saw assistance coming on. So you would highlight that. Assistance was from every stage in the life cycle coming at above 90%, which was very encouraging. Now, of course, this is what agencies are telling they're providing. What's important is to find out what investors think about this and whether it's aligning properly with what they need. So now with that, over to Andreas. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Armando and Eduardo, for these great insights. as we have mentioned at the beginning as well, it was very important for us to also hear now from the IPAs themselves and to learn more also to understand also from their aspect a bit more, and we would like to have them cover certain aspects of the overview that Armando and Eduardo gave just now. And the first speaker will be Mr. Piyush Niranjan. He's working for Invest India, and he will explain us the significance of autonomy in the case of Invest India. So, Mr. Niranjan, we are very much looking forward to your insights.
Thanks, everyone. A very warm evening to my esteemed panelists on this webinar. I'm very much insightful information I got right now. So I will just start what actually Ismail already said, that in the last WIC meeting, we already seen the 75% participants were there, and out of 75% were the investors. So I will directly jump onto, I will share my presentation.
If you're making a presentation, Eva, you need to make
Yeah.
him a speaker. Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes, he's already a co-host, so you should be able to do that.
Yeah. Is it visible to all? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So I will cut it short and make it more insightful. So I will just go through this Invest India journey that it has been started in the year 2009. So what I'm going through, we have seen the report of the World Bank, and it already highlighted the 9 CSFs, the strategic factors, where they highlighted how this specific IPA that is more significant. So Invest India is created like in the year 2009, but you can easily figure out the shareholding is between the government and the private bodies as well. So out of these 9 CSF, this is what we highlighted, that how all this journey took place, and the role of the government and the strategy focused mainly on the competitive segments. So we can figure out that the strategic realignment of the Invest India, the mandate was very, very clear. The competing or the duplicating activity shouldn't happen with other agency. So that was a challenge. So strengthening its mandate at the single point of contact for the foreign investor help Invest India to eliminate confusion and improve the efficiency. So we go through this, we figure out in 2014, in 2015, the action plan has been the budget. So here we highlighted the part of the autonomy. The institutional autonomy was there. In 2016, we have like a specific participate and the startup India. So I will explain this whole journey through one of the in-house segment, that is Startup India, and which dedicated office we got in New Delhi 2017. We have a private shareholding between the 17%, the FICCI, NCI, and NASCOM. As already Eduardo mentioned, that the average is 76 for the developing nation and the digitization. And we have seen the COVID adaptability as well. So we responded, revised strategy throughout the process, and we have seen the surge of the FDI in that time period as well. And I'm just noting out that point, and Armando already mentioned the role of the institution. Role of the institution, that we can see both the government and the private players. So that is more of a synergy which we are seeking out. And so this is, I can explain you to the structure, how it already functioned through this. If you look in this specific part, that we have a country team. So country, that a specific team is going to correlate in the state part. So in the West side, we have Western European, Americas, UK, Germany, and the country of the East. So we have a specific designated desk which coordinate. And this is how that through various service offering to policy and incentives, market entry strategy, expansion advisory, to the joint venture and strategic partner search. So this is how every specific team or the sector specific team, they go through it to enlighten with us the digital platform to provide a single window system to simplify the process. That is the whole idea. So the agencies are more, it operate based on a clear strategy that focuses where India has a competitive advantages. So we started like a digital initiative, which already mentioned by the Eduardo, that the agency leveraging the tool, the digital tool efficiency was the idea at that moment. So the IIG part of the Invest India, that is Investor Relationship Management, IRMS, and the IIG to support and streamline the investment process. So investor-centric services is one of the part we have, as you can see in the left part, that we have long-term partnerships. So hand-holding is from start till the beginning. So it's a typical order of long-term engagement with the company throughout the investor journey. Every country, then it will translate to the sector and then to the state. So we manage the relation with the investor, information, assistant, and sharing the location and it's every single from start till the beginning. That is the whole idea about it. And one of the CSF, which already mentioned in the report, that what is the role of the institution? The high degree of institution and the financial autonomy, because initially the gaining the semi-autonomy and better financial resources to make a decision in a most interesting and attracting and facilitating the FDIs. We have a strong and active board, especially with the private sector representation, which maintain Invest India autonomy and ensured investor-centric decisions should be taken. And before that, the ability of the skilled resources from the private sector was very crucial for providing these data. So this is what I'm trying to do, that that we have seen the structure. So throughout the report, which one thing which I have seen, the fifth point, that is the solid governance, the established board, which including the strong private sector. So as we have seen, there were 51% of the government sector and the rest of the private. So investor-centric services were the highlight of that. Clear mandate was already given with us, that the well-established for the promotion. So there is a dilution risk there. So IPA strategy is very much aligned with the goal of the government. And above all, the mandate that we will stick to the mandate through that it will not be a single point of contact for the foreign investors always there. And when I was listening to Edward also, he mentioned that the incentivizing the incentive boost is close to 13%. And in terms of for the India, Invest India, it's close to 24%. The climate related investing has been 54.5 for the developing, but it has been rise up to like 61.6% for the invest. And institutional coordination is very much high, which is close to 63% in terms of Invest India. And FDI restriction, the new policy also is regulated, which highlighted that you already mentioned 6.1% for the Invest India is around 13.8%. So this is how it actually functions, the role, all the CSF, all these 9 CF, the role of them, and this is how we position itself, not just an agency, but as a dynamic partner for business looking and to enter and thrive more in our Indian market as well as the other market as well. So I will go through and highlight a successful story, that is of Startup India. So it is a flagship initiative by the government of India. And you can see what we actually did. We hand-holding and the simplification of the process was there. So self-restriction and patent applications and the protection, income tax exemption. So we just, all the bottlenecks has been removed. So easier public procedure norms were helped. So this is the idea. This is an in-house project. So you can easily see in the 2016, we have like 420. Within a short span of time, it has been risen up to more than 119,000. So you can easily figure out that the role of all these bottlenecks, which has been removed, and the 9 CSF, the role of all these CSFs straighten up to translating into the unicorns and then funding it. So this is what I'm trying to say. What is this giving an example of it? Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Piyush, for this insightful presentation, and thank you also for clearly already showing the reference between your work and the report. I think this was very, very useful and very insightful. Thank you very much for your time and sharing this, your insights with us. Now, I would like to you're welcome. I would like to now invite our second speaker, Ms. Selma Namutua. She is Manager of Investment Attraction at the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board. And she will reflect on sectoral alignment of new age IPAs and particularly on the NIPDB focus on green hydrogen. Ms. Selma, we're very much looking forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Andreas, and a very good afternoon to everyone. My name is Selma Namutua. I'm manager responsible for investment attraction here at the Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board. I'm I'm going to actually share insights on NIPDB's journey in terms of promoting a focal sector, which is one of our priority sector. So I have 5 minutes to keep within my presentation, and I'm just gonna delve into that. Okay. Please let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, it works.
Perfect. So the journey of the green hydrogen sector actually started in 2021, where the late President Dr. Hage Geingob actually launched the HPP2, which is the Harambee Prosperity Plant. And this included as well as the existence of the NIPDB under the Office of the President. I think the report highlighted that IPA autonomy was very important. So NIPDB actually got autonomy or got formed in 2021, where it was a department within the Ministry of Industrialization and Trade. And during 2021, we were formed in April as well. So the establishment of the Green Hydrogen Council was the start of the green hydrogen journey in Namibia, where the president actually appointed an interministerial Green Hydrogen Council by the president to oversee the development of the green hydrogen opportunity that we saw for the country. So this followed in August, where we actually had a signing of a joint communique of intent with the German government. It was more of a government-to-government cooperation, where a total value of 40 million euros was actually dispatched to support the development of pilot plans, as well as scholarships and feasibility studies. So this 40 million was segmented into 3 categories, where one, the 30 million was actually directed to pilot plants, as well as 5 million to the green hydrogen strategy, and then the other 5 million towards skills development through scholarships and skills development. So this was more followed by a very well executed promotion during the World Economic Forum in October, where Namibia had a Namibian House, where we presented a Namibia Energy Roundtable, where we really emphasized on identifying Hyphen as the preferred bidder after the SCDI Green Hydrogen Project, after the RFP was launched during the bidding process. So at WEF, that's where we really made a mark as a country to announce Hyphen as a preferred bidder to execute the first green hydrogen project in Namibia. So the journey continued, where the launch of the joint communique bid documents in 2022 were developed, and Namibia launched 3 bids as part of the JCO program. And scholarships up to about 200 Namibian scholars were issued, and we actually developed the green hydrogen strategy for Namibia. So all these efforts is more of a journey of how we started putting together this sector successfully. So in 2022, during the COP27, the EU and Namibia actually signed an MOU to focus on critical rare minerals as well as the green hydrogen value chain. So this was more to set up collaboration between the EU and Namibia to implement more projects around the critical rare minerals and the green hydrogen sector. So in 2022, Namibia actually completed its green hydrogen strategy, where the government launched it at COP27 as well. So we launched an SDG fund as well in 2023 in June through our Environmental Investment Fund, where a blended financing platform was aimed at mobilizing about 100 billion euros to investments, with a capacity to de-risk private capital and facilitate further investments into the scale of green hydrogen. So this was a very important journey for Namibia as a whole, to see that there are actually funds coming in for investment into the sector. This then ends to 2023, where we are currently, where we launched the Green Hydrogen Implementation Authority Office, where the Green Hydrogen Commissioner actually has a fully fledged office now to actually implement policies around the green hydrogen sector, as well as other legislative frameworks that are needed in the country to actually implement this sector. Now, opportunities in Namibia's green hydrogen sector. We see Namibia as having a comparative advantage into the sector, where we are competing with countries like Chile, as well as Morocco, because of the combination of the sun and wind that we have in Namibia. So if you see, Namibia is actually in the top 5 locations globally around the world, and it has great export routes where if we are producing green hydrogen, we can actually export around the world, whether it's Europe, Americas, or even around Africa as a whole. So that's a competitive advantage that we have in terms of exporting the green hydrogen that we'll be producing. That's how we've been marketing it all throughout. Now, Namibia as first will be actually seen as a green industrialization hub, where synergies between electricity and minerals are actually combined, where it's the critical rare minerals as well as the green hydrogen. This will support our mobility in terms of sustainable fuels, agriculture in terms of desalination through the water desalination process, as well as fertilizers through the ammonia, which will be produced during hydrogen production. This will then also speak to our electrification, access to electricity through solar and wind, as well as the brine that is being used to actually power the plant through desalination to be used, as well as a new sector for industries. So that was it from my side. Since I had to keep in within 5 minutes, I think I'm more looking forward to the Q&A session. I think I covered your 5 minutes, Andreas. Thank you.
Yes, amazing. And also thank you very much for the great insights that you gave and the wonderful work that you're doing at the NIPDB. So thank you very much for joining. And also now, last but certainly not least, to our final speaker of this part of the webinar, to Mr. Samet Akyüz. He is unit manager at the Strategy and Corporate Planning Unit at Invest in Turkey. Again, we will reflect on something that Armando has mentioned in the presentation, that of the attachment to the highest authority in the country, and we would like to understand from you, Samet, how this worked out for Turkey, what benefits there are, and how this improves perhaps services that you can give. So we're very much looking forward to your insights.
Thank you, Andres. I'm Samet, and I have been working for the office for 13 years. And thank you and the bank, thank the WAIPA and the bank for your invitation. Before going into detail, let me introduce our institution firstly. Our institution was formerly known as ISPAT, Investment Support and Promotion Agency of Turkey. At that time, it was directly attached to the Prime Ministry and directly reports to Prime Minister himself. And after shifting to presidential system, it turned into Investment Office of Turkey. And now it's directly attached to the presidency and reports to the president himself. And the Investment Office is the only public institution whose main mandate is to promote investment environment and assist the investors in every stage of their investments in the country. And we provide a wide range of services to international investors with a crowd sector approach in 10 different languages. Moreover, we have an extensive global footprint with 20 representatives in 13 countries. As the investment office, we are mostly dealing with large-scale investments and impactful investment projects, and we are using a kind of scoring mechanism within the office, which helps us to identify impactful FDI projects. And with this tool, our aim is to evaluate all investment projects coming to our office and accordingly prioritize the high quality investors. With our SDG scoring mechanism, we are able to evaluate the projects and focus on the ones that contribute economic, social, and environmental sustainability most, I can say. Each project in our portfolio gets a score, and accordingly, this score determines the segment of each investment. We have 4 categories there. The diamond, gold, silver, and bronze projects. We are not dealing with bronze projects and forward them to the other local authorities, like the regional development agencies. And if it is a diamond project, we spend and allocate more time and resource for its facilitation and advocacy, I can say. And I will not go into details for all services that we provide, but here in a nutshell, I think the structure of the IP is very important while talking about this attachment and its effectiveness, because not every IP is the same, and they don't have the same status standing within their bureaucracies. That's why it's very important issue. And for us, in a nutshell, I can say that we don't have any mandate on tourism, export promotion, or outward FDI promotion. Our main mandate and responsibility is just for inward FDI. And unlike many IPAs around the world, we don't have any official mandate for designing and implementing state aids or managing industrial sites. Many IPAs have such kind of mandates as well. And our role is mostly facilitation and coordination. That's why for such IPAs like us, the attachment to the head of government and reporting directly to the president is a great power, I can say. And also, without it, the institution cannot survive within a bureaucracy. Our institution is a relatively small team, small organization within Turkish bureaucracy. Many ministries in Turkey has thousands of employees, but we have just 60 IPA practitioners. As such, we hone on higher added value and impactful projects to use our resources efficiently, I can say, and use this power of attachment to the presidency, to the president himself. And also, one of our main mandates is to craft the national FDI strategy in coordination with public and private stakeholders. At the strategy document, which is published in the official gazette by the signature of the president, it becomes a binding document for all stakeholders within the bureaucracy and ecosystem, I can say. And in the strategy, we identify quality FDI projects for Turkey, not just for the IPA, but for Turkey, and all what kind of projects should be prioritized by not only us but also other public institutions. And this is a kind of clear and well-defined roadmap to attract these quality FDI projects, because it also includes tasks and action plans, yearly action plans targeted policy areas like green, digital transformation, talent, etc. I can say, and we keep up with these developments on these tasks, and then report it to the president and vice president and the minister's council. And in order to attract large-scale and impactful projects, we organize one table and one-to-one CEO meetings with the president and vice president, and also the ministers. And also, when we have a large project, we create a team consisting of representatives from different ministers and industry zones or local authorities, like municipalities and regional development agencies. And especially in post-advocacy part, we are creating a business-ready action plan, and also we are always delving into the legislation procedures as well and feeding these systems. And also the Ready Action Plan, which was formerly known as Exhausting Business Action Plan. We bring together relevant ministries and clear targeted tasks here. And we also conduct surveys to evaluate the investment climate, investment environment, and report it to the higher level. And also we have an official body called Coordination Council for the Improvement of the Investment Environment, where private and public sector representatives come together to improve the investment climate. And as an office, we have a strong presence and concrete responsibility in this body. To sum up, for the IPAs, which doesn't have an execution power on specific fields like incentives, industrial sites, license or permits. If you don't give license or permits, the attachment to the highest authority really matters. And as the investor, international investors will invest in Turkey without getting prior official consent or permission from any public institutions, there should be a carrot for the investor to knock your door as an IPA. In this process, the attachment is not enough only. You don't have power, execution power in incentives or other fields. But the quality and efficiency of your services in the investment promotion life cycle, promotion, attraction, facilitation, aftercare, and policy advocacy really matters and make the difference, I can say. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Samet. Thank you for your insights, and thank you for your constant support in our efforts. We highly appreciate that. Now, something I forgot to mention at the very beginning of the webinar, this webinar is also recorded, and we will upload the recording shortly or within the next days to our website, so you can revisit the webinar and listen to it or watch it again. I will also place my questions that you might have after the webinar. I will place my email address into the chat box, and I would ask Eduardo from the World Bank to do the same. So we're always there in case you have any questions on the report or any questions on the webinar itself. But to stay true to time, I would like to now give the word to Mr. Ivan Nimak, who is the global lead for investment policy and promotion, for his closing remarks. We're very fortunate to have him with us today in the webinar, and the floor is yours, Ivan.
Thanks very much, Andreas. And let me just start by thanking WAIPA, Ismail and colleagues. We're very grateful for this relationship and partnership that we have with WAIPA, and we're certainly making sure that it continues in the years to come. So we're very grateful for all the work that we do together, including this survey. So let me just quickly a few points in summary. I think from what we've seen from this survey and from previous work that we've done jointly and individually, there's enough lessons now of good practice in particular for IPAs to understand the need for A, sector specialization, and B, clarity of mandate. This is a sort of lesson that's been pretty crystal clear for the last few years, and it's been confirmed again with this survey. So that's the first point. There's ample lessons now to understand that these two things certainly constitute good practice. Secondly, we've seen that that the budgetary constraints and the staffing levels, whilst they were increasing prior to COVID, have been decreasing afterwards, and therefore there's an even greater need for focused mandates and goals of IPAs. Secondly, all IPAs should test their resilience to global, regional, and country crises, building on the lessons they've learned since COVID, but also the compounding crises that have been taking place following that, and especially focusing here on the need to leverage digital technologies. Fourthly, administrative challenges remain, especially in developing countries, and therefore a focus on continued focus on investment climate, on de facto, de jure barriers to investment needs to be maintained. And this will link to a subsequent point a little bit in a minute or two on advocacy, because there's a direct connection between the work of IPAs, the barriers that they or that their clients encounter in terms of entering and doing business within economies, and the advocacy work that IPAs can do towards governments to ensure that some of those barriers are dealt with. Interestingly and importantly, in terms of staffing, women constitute nearly half of staff within IPAs. And so they can play an important and crucial role in addressing the challenges that IPA face in all of their aspects. Sixthly, more IPAs are offering services throughout the investment life cycle, and they should test investor satisfaction and adjust accordingly to the services investors consider more relevant in particular. And here, reference back to advocacy and the need to prioritize advocacy. Let me also say just one thing on policy, on the policy part, and that is, of course, IPAs don't operate in a vacuum. They operate within the policy context of the country and in the global context of the global environment. In here, obviously, there are issues around, and I noted a UNCTAD paper that came out maybe yesterday or today on this contradiction between, on the one hand, focus on promotion, focus on facilitation. We had the IFD discussions at the WTO and ongoing discussions in respect of an investment facilitation for development agreement, plurilateral one at the global level. On the other hand, increasing screening, increasing barriers to investment, increasing measures being put in place by many countries around the world. So how do you reconcile these two trends? It's just the sort of the moment in which we are. And then the other important trend is that almost all greenfield investment, and I'm generalizing here, is associated with the green energy transition. So that IPAs have a massive role to play in the green energy transition, in supporting mitigation and adaptation through the attraction of firms that are going to facilitate that transition in their countries. And much more is happening on that front in developed than in developing countries. Developing countries need to catch up, which goes back to the story of barriers to entry and other investment climate issues. So finally, I just wanted to encourage all agencies that are participating here, and I've noticed, there was 80 plus participants apart from the panelists themselves, that will be continuing to administer these surveys in the future and continuing to work with WAIPA, and we look forward to our collaboration with all of you and with WAIPA in the years to come. Thank you very much, and back to you, Andreas.
Thank you very much, Ivan. With that, we are basically finished with today's webinar. As mentioned, the recording of the webinar will be uploaded shortly, and you will receive, as you were registered, you will receive an extra link on this in the next couple of days. Other than that, we would like to thank you very much for your time, and I would like to thank you very much for each speaker for their time and sharing their useful insights with us. Other than that, I would like to close the webinar now and thank you very much for your time, and hopefully see you soon at the webinar together with the World Bank anytime soon. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.